One night, 1,000 royal concubines vanished from the heart of the Persian Empire. It was a silence that swallowed an entire wing of the palace, a mystery so profound it defies all logic. This was the Achaemenid Empire at its zenith, a realm of staggering power, golden palaces, and secrets buried deep within its walls. Their disappearance is a historical cold case that has gone unsolved for over 2 millennia. By the end of this, you will understand the chilling theories behind this ancient mass vanishing and why the truth was so dangerous it had to be erased. We will walk through the opulent, guarded halls they called home and uncover the political forces that may have conspired to make them disappear. What does it take for 1,000 lives to be wiped from history without a single clear answer? To understand the sheer impossibility of their disappearance, you must first see the world they inhabited. The royal harem was not a prison of idle pleasure, but a nerve center of imperial power. These women were far more than companions to the king. They were strategic assets, daughters of noble families from every corner of the empire. A concubine from Egypt, another from Babylon, a third from the distant lands of the Indus Valley, each one a living treaty, a human bond securing the loyalty of a conquered people. Their primary duty was to produce heirs, and the son of a favored concubine could one day wear the crown himself. This made the harem a political arena as fierce and consequential as the royal court itself. It was a world of whispered alliances, ambitious mothers, and fortunes that could rise or fall on a single word to the king, and this world was sealed shut. The harem was a fortress within a fortress, protected by a special class of guards, eunuchs who were chosen for their absolute loyalty. No one entered or left without meticulous scrutiny. The women themselves were the king's most prized possessions, tangible proof of his wealth, his reach, and his absolute control. They were symbols of an empire's strength. So how does a symbol of such immense power simply vanish? The fact that they disappeared from this specific, hyper-secure environment is what transforms a historical footnote into a breathtaking enigma. It suggests a force powerful enough to bypass the empire's most stringent protections. Our only real window into this event comes from a man who walked those palace corridors himself. Ctesias of Cnidus was a Greek physician who served in the Persian court, and his writings are a rare, first-hand account. He mentions the disappearance of the 1,000 concubines, but his report is frustratingly brief, leaving us with more questions than answers. The core mystery lies in the how. Did they simply flee? The idea of 1,000 women, unused to hardship, slipping past elite guards and vanishing into the night seems impossible. Were they murdered, such a mass execution would have been a bloody, chaotic affair, yet no record of such violence, no mass grave, has ever surfaced. Or were they secretly relocated, moved like living chess pieces to another palace or a remote fortress? This last option presents its own incredible logistical nightmare. Think of the sheer number. 1,000 people require food, water, shelter, and secrecy. Transporting them would have meant a massive caravan involving hundreds of guards and servants, an operation that could not be easily hidden. Yet it appears to have been hidden perfectly. The aftermath from the Persian perspective is deafening in its silence. There is no mention of a frantic search in the official court records. No proclamations were sent to the governors of the provinces. It is as if the earth opened, swallowed them whole, and the empire simply carried on. This official silence is not an absence of evidence. It is, in fact, the most compelling evidence of all. In an empire meticulous about its administration and royal prestige, the only way 1,000 royal consorts could vanish without a trace is if their disappearance was sanctioned from the very top. The lack of any inquiry points directly to a high-level cover-up. The royal court itself seems to have conspired to erase them. This eerie void, this calculated forgetting, tells us that the truth was so dangerous, so threatening to the stability of the throne, that every single witness and record had to be extinguished. The story had to die so that the empire could live on. So who had the power to orchestrate such a perfect silence? The suspects are few, and each points to a different, terrifying motive. First, look inside the harem itself. Imagine a rival queen, a woman who had secured the king's favor and borne him a son. Her position was everything, yet it was perpetually threatened by 1,000 other women, any of whom could capture the king's attention and produce a rival heir. In this gilded cage, jealousy was not a petty emotion, it was a survival instinct. A powerful consort, backed by her own network of eunuchs and servants, could have seen the entire concubinate as a single, looming threat. Eliminating them all in one swift, brutal move would have cleared the path to the throne for her own child, removing all future competition. The method would have to be poison, perhaps slipped into a shared meal, leaving no outward sign of violence. The flaw in this theory is the sheer scale of the secret. Could one woman, no matter how influential, silence 1,000 deaths and every single person who knew about them? It seems a conspiracy too large for a single individual to control. This leads us to the second suspect, a rival faction within the royal court. The Persian nobility and the military were not always unified behind their king. A disgruntled prince, a powerful general, or a coalition of satraps could have seen the harem as a point of extreme vulnerability. By removing the king's concubines, they would be striking a devastating blow to his prestige and his legacy, a clear message that his power was not absolute. It could have been the opening move in a coup designed to create chaos and demonstrate the king's inability to protect his own household. The logistics of such an operation, however, are staggering. It would require the cooperation of the harem guards, the very eunuchs sworn to protect the women. If they were bribed or replaced, that in itself points to a conspiracy that reached into the highest levels of the palace security, a rot from within that the king himself failed to see. And that brings us to the most chilling suspect of all, the king himself. Consider the absolute power a Persian monarch wielded. His word was law, his command could move armies and erase cities. If he deemed 1,000 concubines a threat, they would simply cease to be. But what threat could 1,000 sheltered women pose? Perhaps a plague broke out within the harem walls, and to prevent its spread, the king ordered the entire wing quarantined and its inhabitants removed, a brutal act of state preservation. Or maybe a dark prophecy warned that a son born from the concubines would overthrow him, leading him to eliminate the possibility at its source. There is also the possibility of a grand, terrifying political statement. By removing his own concubines, the king could have been demonstrating his detachment from worldly pleasures, or showing his nobles that he was willing to sacrifice his most prized possessions to prove a point about his divine authority. The flaw here is the historical record itself. Even a king would have a reason, and such a drastic act would likely leave some whisper in the annals of history. Yet we find only silence, a void that feels less like an accident and more like a deliberate, total erasure. Each suspect offers a compelling motive, but each also leaves a critical question unanswered, ensuring that the mystery of that night remains locked away, a secret the empire took to its grave. This profound silence from the empire is a historical statement in itself. Why would a catastrophe of this magnitude, the loss of 1,000 royal women, leave no mark on Persia's own official records? And why did their greatest enemies, the Greeks, who would have relished such a scandal, fail to weaponize it? The answer lies in the raw mechanics of ancient power. For a Persian king, his image was not just a matter of pride, it was the very glue that held a vast, multi-ethnic empire together. He had to be seen as divinely favored, all-powerful, and in perfect control. An event of this scale, whether it was a mass murder, a successful escape, or a deadly plague, would have been the ultimate symbol of chaos. It would have shown the world that the king could not even protect his own household, let alone the realm. Such a truth was a direct threat to the legitimacy of the throne, so the state did the only thing it could do to survive. It performed the ultimate act of censorship. It erased the story completely. Think of it not as a lost chapter of history, but as one that was deliberately torn out and burned. This was not a passive forgetting, it was an active, aggressive act of control. The palace bureaucracy, so adept at recording everything from tax revenues to grain shipments, would have received a single, unspoken command to pretend it never happened. Scribes would have destroyed clay tablets, guards would have been sworn to secrecy or reassigned to distant posts. The very memory of those 1,000 women became a state secret, more dangerous than any military plan. This is what separates their story from other historical puzzles. We have evidence for the fate of the Roman Ninth Legion. We have theories about the lost colony of Roanoke. But here we are confronted by a perfect void. The emptiness is the evidence. The cover-up is the story. It reveals a terrifying truth that in the ancient world, a government could wield so much power it could simply make 1,000 people disappear from history itself, ensuring that their final night would become an echo without a source, a question asked forever in the dark. The echo of that final night leaves us with a puzzle built from equal parts fact and void. We are left staring at the stark impossibility of the event itself, 1,000 women vanishing from the most secure place in the empire. We have the locked doors of the harem, the silent night, and a list of suspects, each with a terrifying motive, from a jealous queen to a conspiring court, all the way to the king who held the power to command their erasure. Yet the most compelling evidence remains the profound, deliberate silence that followed, a state-sponsored cover-up so complete it has baffled us for millennia. This story is far more than an ancient whodunit. It is a stark lesson in the nature of absolute power, a force that could not only take lives, but could also steal them from history itself, proving that truth is fragile and can be broken by those with the will to do so. It forces us to remember that behind the grand narratives of empires and kings are countless forgotten lives, women whose stories were deemed expendable for the sake of political stability. Their ultimate fate remains shrouded in the darkness of that single night. Were they victims of a brutal political purge, the architects of a daring escape, or something even more mysterious that we may never understand? The answer is lost to time, but the question endures. What do you believe happened to the 1,000 concubines? Share your theories in the comments below, and if you are captivated by history's greatest enigmas, subscribe for more deep dives into the past. It leaves us to wonder how many other secrets, just like this one, are still buried, waiting for a voice.